But as you can see, Jay is a little above the urban experience right now. The first interview is with GQ. This one is with the New York Times. And I get it. I know y'all gonna be like, oh, Choke, he's Jay-Z. He's a billionaire. You know, he can't just go to the Breakfast Club or he just can't go sit down. Like, he could do whatever he wants. He could do an interview with whoever he wants. But at the end of the day, for people like me, that's a hip hop historian, for people that been in the game 30 years plus, you know, that seen him come in the game in the 80s and all the way through. We want validation when it comes to these interviews. We want kickback. We want rebuttals. We want historic questions. We want to feel some type of nostalgia, right? Not nobody just that knows Jay Z from being Beyonce's husband or, you know, Jay Z. They just all they know about him is he's just a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, we not. You know, we want some. We want to hear about some real history, some hard facts, right? But right now, I'm sure after he finished doing his bougie run, he'll give somebody from the culture an interview that so it will so we will be appeased, or the people like me will be like, oh, all right, well he did an interview with so and so, you know, yeah. People like, yo, Chogi, you Jay-Z should let you interview him. It'd be a ice day in hell before that happened. And then, as you can see, they didn't even credit the person who interviewed him in the credits when the thing went off. It had whoever the editor in chief is for the New York Times, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the editor in chief did the interview, because normally an editor don't do interviews. You know, that ain't their job description unless they, you know, cloud chasing or a big fan of somebody, and they want to do the interview and cut the person throat who normally does the interviews. 444, so 200 copies in the first weekend, hard copies. Thanks for the super chat, Joey Young, and the information. 200,000 the first week is great. Those are great numbers. Those are great numbers back in the day numbers. That's still good. But like I said, in the credits, you don't see they credit who was the person that did the interview, but they gave credits to everybody else that was involved in that interview, right? Because they don't want us again going to look up, yo, who interviewed Jay Z for this interview? Man, they don't know nothing about hip hop. Nah, man, get out of here. They don't want that. So they took a different approach this time with this interview. And this is also why you don't hear nobody voice, because if it's a person that don't even sound like they hip hop, he know that he gonna catch uh, a lot of feedback from the hip hop community, you know. And then this interview here was just another way for Jay to take some more subliminal shots at people, right? Now, the one thing that he talked about, which we all know the story, you know, Jay Z don't write rhymes; he write them in his head. You know, this, that, and other. Now that is redundant. That, but I guess depending on who's interviewing him, they may not know this. Be like, because it's common knowledge to us. So him talking about that, was nothing new for a lot of us. And for me, it's believable because I came up with that same concept too when I was hustling. Because you're doing a lot, you know what I'm saying, standing outside, right? And when you out there hustling, standing around, you waiting around for fiends or whatever, you know, you be creative in your head, or at least I was. You know what I'm saying? So I started, structuring my creativity in my head, and music is one of the things that I did while I was hanging out on the block or traveling or doing something. If I got an idea for a song, I just start writing the song in my head. You know what I'm saying? You know, the first line, the second line, the third line, the fourth line. Back to the first line, the second line, the third line, fourth line, to the fifth line, to the sixth line, to the sixth line, to the seventh line, to the first line, to the second line, to the third line. And I would just keep doing that repetitive over and over. And then at the end of the day, or an hour or in 10 minutes, depending on the creative juices, the song is wrote in your head and it's already memorized because you wrote it in your head. So that him talking about that, I can relate to that and believe that he was doing that. But there it becomes a time when you too busy and too much is going on and too much is in your head, it'll make you sit down and write it out because it's just easier for you to write it out. Or for me it is. You know, I could do both, either or. You know what I'm saying? But that part, like I said, wasn't nothing new. So I'm sure it's the same way for Jay-Z, but even though he's bougie now. So uh I'm saying when I was out in the streets hustling, that was my way of writing music in my head. Jay-Z talking about, oh, I developed that talent when I moved away from home, you know, opposed to when his ass was out there selling drugs out of town. Talking about when I moved away from home, that's when I started writing rhymes in my head, you know, when he moved away from home. No, nigga, when you went down to Maryland, DC, and Virginia and was selling them 92 bricks that you've been bragging about your whole career, nigga. Don't get in front of Shay Whitey and change it up. When I moved away from home, when a young Sean moved away from home, I started writing rhymes in my head, because I was on the road a lot, when I moved away from home. Yeah, that was the young Sean. That's the time when I was Shawnee D. I got the name Jay Z from Nut Riding Jazzo. Jazzo was my big brother, my mentor, and so he had the name Jazzo, and I started off with Shawnee D, but Jazzo was famous, so I wanted to ride some of Jazzo's fame, so I call myself Jay Z. He was the the originator, and I was his son, Jay Z. Yeah, that's how I got that name. Yeah, he don't tell that goddamn story.